who really surprise you, and you're going to have people who disappoint you. And it's important to learn. Important to take stock, right, of who was where and who said what and who did what. Because even though it feels like the Trump moment is like he's all powerful and it's going to last forever, like that's not true. We all know that there's going to be a backlash and there's going to be a shift back in the other direction. And
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Krystal Ball with the Vanguard. She's talking about Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur. Krystal Ball is saying that TYT, Cenk Uygur, Ana Kasparian, all of them, they've switched up, and she's calling out their hypocrisy. Let's get into it.
Remark at, given the fact that
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Oh
off.
no, I was just gonna say, given the fact that everybody else is selling, the progressive movement down the river, you've had conviction, you've been able to grow. It's something that we can look up at and admire and say, these guys did it. It makes it more attainable for everyone else.
I also
Yeah.
think it has to be pointed out that the Hills Rising has just totally gone off a cliff as far as its quality. Do you have any observations about the way they've run your brand into the ground entirely? and
It's
just
weird. It
thrown
feels
off the
weird.
ledge?
It feels weird. I gotta say. I mean, at this point, we've done Breaking Points longer than we did Rising, so it feels a little removed and distant. But especially for a while, it was so strange to have this thing that truly Sagar and I built. Right, like the concept of it, the approach, the ideological straight, like all of the radars, all of it, like we built. And then to have someone else mouthing the words like, "What's on your radar?" I'm like, "What is this? This is so weird to have this like phantom ghost product out there." I guess the best thing I could say is it's a testament to the strength of the concept that it still exists to this day, even in like such a strange and bizarre world form.
shit.
But I don't know. It is a weird thing. I have to confess, every once in a while I'll go and check in, like, what's going on over there? But
Just laugh.
always a pleasure. And one last thing I wanted to say to you guys, I know you sometimes like poke fun at yourselves for, being the drama channel or whatever, but if new media is now as powerful as it's being sold as being, there needs to be media critics. Like that's not looked down upon as a role when it's applied to mainstream press. So I don't think you guys should like deride the role that you're filling in the marketplace. It's important and it actually needs, it needs to be done, and it takes courage to do it.
I really appreciate you saying that. Gavin and I, we have to, keep our heads from getting too big because we're so excited to not have day jobs. You know what I mean? So it's good to,
I'm happy for you
just,
guys.
poke fun at ourselves and lean into the silly and Billy things, yeah, sometimes you just have to call that shit out. Do you have any thoughts that you want to share on your way out about the miserable failure of the Young Turks and how they're blaming homeless people for fires, and how Ana Kasparian has seemingly left the left and doesn't want anything to do with other left-wing channels? I know you have a working relationship with Cenk. We don't want to ask you to.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I almost got out of here without getting asked this question.
Well, it's the band. I thought Gavin was going to ask, and I was like, well, let me just.
You don't have to.
So right here we have Krystal Ball giving Vanguard their props. She is saying, it's important to cover media in the way that you guys are doing it, to maybe scrutinize what's going on behind the scenes, because it does have a pull, as we can see. Even TYT has a pull, and obviously that's what leads Silly and Billy into this next question, asking her, well, how do you feel about TYT? Let's see what she says.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Yeah,
No.
of course.
What I will say is, to me, it's just disappointing. Like, because we have so few voices that have any sort of platform and power. So to have, I think Ana and Cenk, I think they're both really talented. I think they've both been very important to the progressive movement. And so it's just one of my like disappointments of this moment that they're not leading the charge alongside everybody else. So I guess that's my short summary of how I feel about it.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think more than anything, beyond the personalities involved, Cenk, Ana, whatever, it's just indicative to me of the retreat of this online left energy that was so aggressive when I first started tuning in back in 2014, 15. It's almost, unrecognizable to see these people now and the way they talk versus the way they did then.
Totally. And to make a sort of broader point, outside of Cenk and Ana, moments like this are, you're going to have people who like really step up, who really surprise you, and you're going to have people who disappoint you. And it's important to learn. It's important to take stock, right, of who was where and who said what and who did what. Because even though it feels like the Trump moment is like he's all powerful and it's going to last forever, like That's not true. We all know that there's going to be a backlash and there's going to be a shift back in the other direction. And a lot of people are going to pretend like they were, there and allies all along. And, it's just important. It's important to take note of who said what when it was difficult. Right. I feel the same way with like
Mhm.
people who, 10 years later were like, the Iraq war was really bad. It's like, well, I'm glad you got there, but what were you saying at the time when you were like,
Or yeah.
cheerleading it and totally on board with.
So here we have Krystal Ball saying, it's disappointing to see what's happening to DYT, what's happening between Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur on maybe a zoomed out level. Once this right wing, baloney stops getting pushed out by the media, once the people start to, maybe wake up from what's happening, because a lot of these people in the middle, they were voting for Trump. Maybe they might even tell you as a lesser of two evils. But after they get their fair share of, the Trump fever, after these things keep on happening, it will be, maybe a new light that comes about for the progressive movement. So she's saying that, the ones that are going over, grifting, shilling for the right wing movement at this point in time, to remember what's going on, to remember that whenever everything starts to look a little bit more bleak and they go back to the left, they go back to wanting to say things about the progressive movement, remember who was there from the very beginning, who never switched sides.
You guys are too young that it was not even like a thing, but
I know what you're saying. Or James Carville coming out now to say that Bernie Sanders was right.
Bernie was
all
right.
along
It's
when he
like,
was,
okay, great, but
Could've used
you
that
also were
8 years ago.
right, and you were a primary opponent of it, like you were trashing him. So that's not all, water under the bridge. But I think it's important to take stock of who's where right now.
Mhm.
Well, so there we have it, you guys. It's Krystal Ball calling out TYT, saying that, Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian have become disappointing. It's really sad to see what's happened to TYT. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.